Okay, so I'm just going to start winging through spreadsheet tips and techniques, and you can stop and ask questions along the way. And I hope I have a little bit of time at the end of the hour for any specific questions that I might be able to answer. I don't know everything about Excel, but we'll see what we can do. I'm going to focus on those types of Excel techniques that I use as a scientist, right? And so I'm not going to get into any kind of financial related stuff, or can't help you with the spreadsheet you use for your balance book, although I encourage you to develop one on your own when you get a chance. So those kind of questions I won't be able to get into because there's so much to be able to cover at one time. But I hope you get something out of this. If you're really good at it already, this should be a refresher and like, oh yeah, I forgot I could do that. But I hope you get something out of it. So let's go start with a share screen, and I will go like so. Get that out of the way. Got a nice Caribbean scene here. Whoops, wrong one. Sorry. And let's go here. Okay, so here's the spreadsheet. I think, yeah, I'll just open it all up so everybody can see that. Could somebody just give me a shout out?
Yep.
Okay, good, thanks. Okay, so first of all, you want to enter numbers. So of course you have a keypad, so you start entering numbers. You often want to enter a whole bunch of numbers. So Excel makes that easy for you. Once you put in the first two of a series of any type, grab that little black box in the bottom right corner and start dragging. Okay, so you don't have to start typing a lot. It can be done there. The next one is 1.5. See, it doesn't matter what the series is, it's going to be able to give it to you. I think even if I said sample 1 with just one of them, let's see what happens. Yep, so it automatically types them all out and gives you the numbers that you'd expect. Careful of that though, because sometimes you copy over and you don't want it to change to a 2, but then you have to do the copy and paste option. Okay, so that's just one little trick. Another thing is you have a long column. Okay, so I can keep this going down for a long ways, and it gets annoying to have to go down into the depths of your spreadsheet or way over to the side. You want to copy all this, so you start at the top here, hit the shift key like you would to copy multiple things at the same time, and then hit the end key, just tap it, and then hit the down key, and you can see it just highlights them all very quickly, very fast, and drops to the bottom of the column. So then of course you can copy paste whatever you want to do with that. So when I'm doing it, it goes about this fast: shift and down, okay? And then if you have multiple, control C, oops, come on, there we go. Oh, I lost it. I'm going to do that one more time. Hit control C, so I'm copying. You know you're copying because it's got that little thingy going on there around the numbers. So there's a whole bunch of them. So again, I could hit shift and down, and now I still have my finger on the shift key, and I hit end over. And again, so you can very quickly block out a whole bunch of numbers if that's needed. Okay. We're getting feedback from one of you. There we go. Thank you. All right. You can, of course, eliminate things different ways. You can delete them. You can just eliminate the entire column in this case. You got to click up above there. You can do the same thing with rows. Now, of course, you want to put in a function of some sort. I've got one right here, y equals b e to the mx, just as an example. So I'm looking for y, that's the answer, right? And x is the number 1 in this case. So I'm going to put an equal sign in to start any function. You can also start with a plus sign, but equals makes more sense to me. And I want to put in the b, so that I'm just going to choose the number 2.5 as b, multiply it times the exp. Well, this is fairly common, so probably there's a function for it. Okay, so this is I'm just making this comment up now because I've seen students in the past try to invent things their own way, or they'll put in numbers like for pi. I'll show you that one. No, you can imagine if you have to do it, millions of other people have had to do it, and Excel has built that in someplace. So get on Google or wherever and say, how do I enter EXP, or as the exponential or pi or whatever, and don't assume that you're the first to ever have done it. As it turns out, I just happen to know that the function is EXP. And you can see a function list pops up here. So it gives you the possible ones that start with EXP. Now I know to put a little left bracket in, but you could also double click on this and it puts it in there for you automatically. You need that left bracket in there to start entering whatever it is you're now taking the exponential of. And we know that that's going to be B. So I don't have to type that in. I can just click on it. But at this point, you do have to type. You have to close the bracket. Okay. And so that would be the X, but there is also an M in there, so I'm going to put another constant in, 0.5, so I can put that in. I've got to multiply it again, and now I've got a function. Okay, and now I want to copy that all the way down, so you can hit copy, paste the whole thing, or again, that little box on the bottom right is your friend. Just double click on it and it knows to copy and it knows when to stop. It will stop at the bottom, wherever the bottom is. So that's another little techno tip. I'm just going to get rid of the top, all these. And okay, so here we have a function. Now, what if I wanted to change B to something else? I want this function to be useful to me in multiple ways, and that's the beauty of a spreadsheet, right? Is trying to make it as flexible as possible. So if I wanted to change P, I have to go back in here and change the 2.5 and copy back down again. But as you can probably expect, I could also put the 2.5 in a cell. Now I want to, instead of typing in the 2.5, I want it to refer to C3, right? Hit enter. Copy down. Something weird is going on. Well, this is what's called relational, something to do with Excel. The cells are relational to each other. So in this case, yep, the first time you can see, we click on it, it'll show you what you have, what your function is associated with. Now the second one, those of you who know what's going on, see now it's trying to relate to C4. I don't want it to relate to C4. I want it to relate to C3, but Excel is relational. It'll just keep always the same, 1 to the left, 2 above for all of them, right? No matter where I am. 1 to the left, 2 above. So there is a workaround that, which is to lock the value or the cell location into the function. And the way to do that is to come back up here, and I'm sorry I can't blow that up any higher, but I hope you see the C3 up there. And the dollar signs around it are what cause it to be locked. So you can type it in. You can type in $C, $3. The dollar in front of the C locks the column. The dollar sign in front of the 3 locks the row. So that locks that cell completely. Okay, now when I copy down, no matter where I am, it's referring to C3. So now I can change C3 to any number I want and have automatic changes to my spreadsheet. So this is kind of what, to me, spreadsheets are all about, is to make them as flexible as possible. Could have done the same thing with a 0.5, right? And have another cell, but it'd be the same issue. Let's see here. The other, back up here, I can click on that C3. I'm just have my cursor up in the function area there. F4 is the only function tab number thingy that I use. Because if you click on F4 right now, you can see it changes through the various options of the dollar signs automatically. So we're back to C3. I hit F4 and it automatically pops the 2 dollar signs in for you. So that's just another little techno tip. So now the next level of this kind of concept is a table. So now I want 4, 5, 6, 7. That way, I'm going to move these down. Come on. I'm going to move them down. Now, in the process of moving down, Excel automatically goes, oh, you no longer want C3 locked in, you want C4 locked in. You see, so you don't have to retype it. It knew with given a move like that to make the adjustment correctly. Okay, so now I want to copy the cell, and I'm going to fill this table out. Oops, something's wrong. So over here, it's still locked on C4. I want it on C5, right? Oh, and I don't want the left one to be on 6.59. I want it to be locked on 1. Okay, so here is where we have to be careful with our dollar signs. So for the ones on top, I want the row to be locked, right? But not the column. I want the column to shift, but not the row. So I want to take that dollar sign away from the C and keep the row 4. And over here, the B5 now, I want the column to be locked. I want to shift the dollar sign onto the B, but I want it to be able to be flexible downward. Okay, so then you go Control C, Control V, and now no matter where I am, see it's accessing the correct values. So that's where the dollar signs are your friends. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, and then there's all that formatting stuff you can do, right? Change them red, whatever. All that stuff is up here. So that should be really obvious to you. I'm going to drop this down a little bit because of that obnoxious thing up top here. I can try to hide it. There we go. It might help a little. And all right. The other issue is, okay, this is a function, but for whatever reason, I want to be able to collect these values someplace else. And I know that as soon as I move this someplace, something weird's going to happen to that number, but I want the number to go, right? So that's where pasting as a value is appropriate. So I'm hitting Control C, I come over here, I can't just hit paste, I have to paste as a value, which is this 1, 2, 3 thing. Okay, so now it's just the number 11.54. You have to be very careful with that though. In your scientific world, warning, warning. You should never have a number in a spreadsheet that is unknowable in terms of its origin. Okay, every spreadsheet should be picked up by any intelligent person, and they should be able to figure out where those numbers are coming from. So by doing this with this values now, especially if I put it into another sheet, who knows, or totally another spreadsheet, the origin of that is gone. So at minimum, you should type in here, this value came from, right? No, I'm seriously, to make sure that happens, or that it's embedded somewhere in the spreadsheet. Another way to get around this is just to put the equal sign to this and refer to that cell. Now I have the number over there, but the person can pick this up and go, oh, I see, it's coming from this value here. So the only thing that should be a number in a spreadsheet is your raw data. Everything else, any kind of function, the function should be obvious to the viewer. Okay, so just a little shout out on that. Now let's see, deleting, clearing. Of course, delete the button. You can also, I like this clear option over here. You can clear all, but it's especially important when, say, I put in some highlights, I want to show people, and I encourage you to use these. As this whole column is the important thing, so that you want to remind yourself that it's different from something else. So there's different ways of doing stuff. You can underline, of course, and be careful with this underline. When you start moving it around, the underline doesn't work very well. It's a pain. For example, if I do this and copy down, it will copy the line with it, etc. So if I hit the delete key right now, you see all the formatting remains, which is not the greatest. I'm going to hit undo. So that's where I find the clear all function to be very helpful. Okay, and just wipes everything clean back for you again. Now, let's say you've really worked long and hard on a particular sheet, and you know that next time you're going to be repopulating this perhaps with different numbers or whatever, and you don't want to have to recreate the thing. So, okay, I can come down here, I can hit the plus sign, open up a new sheet, come into data, copy this out, right? Put it into sheet 4. That would be the typical thing you'd want to do or think to do. But what I've learned, or what I do all the time, is copy the entire sheet. Okay, so this is move or copy here. That's important. And you can tell it where to go before the sheet. It automatically does it before the sheet. I'm going to take it after, and I'm going to say create a copy and hit OK. Okay, so now I've got data 2 and data, and I can rename this, but now I have a place to jump off from, right, and start moving on. So now you can create your sheets from previous sheets rather simply that way. Believe it or not, if you have another spreadsheet open, you can come to move or copy, and you can see it does to book. It can actually send that entire sheet as it is to another spreadsheet and then plant it in there. Okay, so that's important when you have a graph. A graph, if you copy a graph from one spreadsheet to another, it still refers back to the numbers of the previous spreadsheet, the original spreadsheet, which is a real pain, and you'll get conflict errors when you pull the next spreadsheet up, and it's like, we can't find that other spreadsheet, we don't know, or the worksheet is not available, or something like that. So, but if you implant it like this, using this copy process, it will take everything with it and put it into that other spreadsheet. So that gets down to, you're doing multiple trials of your experiments, right? And you don't want to have to recreate the wheel every time you put new data in. So in my lab, this is my lab research. See this, I have a folder called template spreadsheets. Here they all are for these various instruments that output different data types. And so I know that next time I use this particular instrument, here's the data, and I take it from the instrument, plunk in new data in here. Everything gets analyzed because everything's referring to that data. And then I save it as, right, trial GRIM 11D, trial 1, trial 2. So I encourage you as well to do that. Come up with some template. Don't recreate the wheel every time. Do the best you can with any one particular one. So this is also a situation here. We can see I have purposely formatted the background to have a solid color of white. And that's for printing purposes, as you can imagine. I could have made it orange. Please don't do that. And speaking of printing, I want this to be printed out. Again, this thing is just really annoying. Go to page layout after highlighting and go to print area, set the print area. And so it will, now when I go to print, it will know that I want just that area. It's a lot easier than any other option out there. Now there's the other one that you want to know when printing is this fit sheet on one page, because you may have a bunch of numbers that you want, and you hit fit sheet on one page, and it will scale it down to all cram it in on one page. Of course, this is now oriented landscape as well. So you got those options when printing. So I just want to make sure, remind you of that. One other way of like templates, of course, is once you've developed a graph, is to simply copy the graph and then go in and select the data and change the series to whatever data values you now want it to refer to. So again, once you put a lot of work into a graph that looks this cool right here, utilize it. Another thing you can do is you've got all the data, and maybe I'll show this later, but you can copy the graph, and then you can paste special, and you can paste the, oops, I'm not going to do it right. I'll have to be in, you can paste the formats, basically is what I'm talking about. So it'll just recreate the format with new data. So that's another trick of getting things done as quickly as possible. All righty, get out of this, don't save. Okay, moving ever onwards. It's kind of going across the top here of our spreadsheet. So we've been in home here for a while. Yeah, you can, if you've got the 0.32, you can immediately turn that into a percentage. You can increase or decrease the number of digits automatically this way. While we're into formatting, I just right-clicked on it, hit Format Cells. All the options are in here. General is the general number. Here's the percentage. Here's a number with a specified number of digits. You can turn it into currency. So if you get a spreadsheet that you've done you planted it in as a date, sometimes that date formatting stays there in that cell. It's like, why is it showing me this? Open up the format cell and hit general and get it back to what it's supposed to look like. So that's, inserting pictures, all that stuff. This is where we insert graphs, equations, symbols, all that stuff is there as well. Drawing, of course, page layout. I just showed you the most important one, which to me is the print area. And then formulas, yes, if you want to start searching on your own, you can develop those from here. And that's the problem. If you don't know it exists, you got to start from scratch, I'll admit. After a while, you get the idea. All right. So speaking of which, let me just, so at the bottom of each one of these tables, I want the average and I want the standard deviation. So I just happen to know that the average function is called average, thankfully, and I'm gonna highlight them all above it, hit enter, and there's the average. Once I have it for one column, I can pull it over and I've got it for all the others. Same thing with standard deviation. Now they give you a .p and a .s. Always use the .s. I have no idea what, this is for the population. That is not the function you want. You want .s. So again, you can double click on it or keep typing. So across, and you have various values that way. And again, the functions just go on, there's financial, logical, there's just, you can click on these and come up with these different types. Math and trig would be an important one, all the tangents, cotangents, all the sines, all that stuff. Statistical ones, yeah, here they are, chi-square, just about anything that you can pull up in a table, like a T table, F table.
I think Excel is already.
Is there a question?
Sorry, I didn't know I was not muted.
That's okay. All right. One other thing now I want to show you in terms of statistics, which probably you're going to do at some point. They're kind of embedded. It does not come popping up automatically for these functions that you can utilize in Excel. So you have to go back to, what did I just hit? I just hit File. Hit File, go down to Options. Up pops this box. Go to Add-ins. Go down to the bottom here that says, I don't know what all this stuff above is, but let's go. Okay. And click on this box that says Analysis Toolpak. Now, mine is already clicked. I don't know if this saves, like if you're on a CPH computer if it saves it. And so the same computer is always, so you may have to do this every time you get on a CPH computer, for example. Hit OK. Now there is a Toolpak, it's called, that has all the statistical functions in it. The next question is, where the heck is it? Well, I just happen to know that it's under data, and it's going to get shoved way over here to the right. See, there's data analysis. Okay, now you have access to a wide variety of common statistical techniques that I'll walk you through in a minute. ANOVAs, exponential smoothing, Fourier analysis even for you engineers, histogram, regression, Ttest, Z-tests, random number generation, even a moving average, F-test for variances, exponential smoothing. There's a lot here, a lot. Correlation covariance. So this one here, descriptive statistics, I can just right now, you open it up, input range. I want to grab this data right here for trial 7. And there are no labels in the first row. The output range, click that and then click the little up arrow and say, I want it to go here. Okay. And you have to pick one of these boxes below. I want summary statistics. And let's go with a confidence level for the mean. Hit OK. And it just chucks out a whole bunch of values automatically for you. So there's the mean, standard error, standard deviation, and these other things that tell you something about the distribution, how normal or not normal it is, minimum, maximum, etc. All of these have a predefined function somewhere in Excel. Unfortunately, it doesn't show the value in terms of the function. It shows the solved version of the function. But I do know, for example, that there is a median function, and so I could get the number that way. But just to give you an idea, again, that there's, let's see, max and min are, please use max and min. Don't go searching for them. It'll just pop it right out there for you. It'll do all the searching for you in a big long list and show you what the maximum number is, as an example. And then sum is one of the types that for which you can see up here is some auto-generated functions over here, the most common ones. So you first click on the values and then hit auto sum, and it automatically pops, this time the function itself in there. Okay, so that's another quick way to get at these. Go back again and hit average. This time it gives me the average. So there's some, again, some automatic inputs that way. Okay, let's get into one other aspect. Let's see here. I think that's about it for all that. Let's get into some plotting. So here's an experiment. Someone had trial 1, trial 2, has some concentrations of there's their output, 6 different runs for each one. And they want to do some comparisons of these. You could imagine you could do a correlation graph where you plot these trial run numbers against each other as one example. You might want to do like a bar chart where you have the bars are lined up so that run number 1 value is compared directly to the run number 1 for trial 2, right? Wouldn't that be kind of a nice thing to do? So how do you get at that? Well, the answer is down below. You have to, in Excel, combine those data like this, so that they're contiguous, so that Excel knows what to do with it. So then once that happens, you can actually also grab the labels themselves, the trial 1, trial 2, go to insert. Now we have a grouping of charts up here. You can expand that. Here they all are. And it even gives you some recommended charts, and this is the one we're after. But typically, you might see something like this. What I'm trying to get you to see is that there is a column chart, and there is a, where'd it go? There are these statistic chart, the histogram right here. See, look, the icon looks the same, column and histogram. do not do histogram any more than you have to. I'll show you how to get around that one, but we do want a column. We want a column like that and hit OK. And we end up with this. So you can see this is what I want. I want trial 1 right next to trial 2 for each one of the runs. Okay, so that's one way to get at that. Now, the next trick that a lot of us want to do is add what are called error bars. There's a bunch of numbers here for each one of my trials. There's been 20 samples. I've computed the average and the standard deviation. Now I want a bar chart with error bars. And so I'm going to go to Insert. Right here is the one. See, this is the histogram, the statistic chart. Do not pick that one. Pick this one up here. Go back to a 2D column again. Now it's saying, where is your data? I could have highlighted it first, but I didn't. So you can select the data, add it in, excuse me. In this case, I want the averages. Those are the bar heights. Hit OK. So I'm getting there. Looks pretty good. Okay. Now I want the error bars. And if I've got standard deviation, you need to hope that the standard, I want error bars associated with plus or minus a standard deviation. So now we have a graph. You go over here to this plus sign, it gives you the options for the graph. First of all, I hate grid lines any more than I have to. I don't even like chart titles. You just don't need them. But I do see error bars here, okay? And it automatically pops in these bars just kind of like I want, but they're all the same size, and I have no idea where they came from. So you have to come over here, and even here they say standard deviation. But again, they look like the same, and it's a mess, and I have no idea where that number is coming from. I think it's the standard deviation of these 5 values. That's not what I want. I want the standard deviation of the columns of values. So to me, this is a mistake on Excel's part. So you have to go into more options. And down here, it'll give you custom. I know it's a pain, but it's the way you do it. So I can specify the value. It says positive error value. Now I can click on these standard deviations. And this is the negative error value. It's same ones. I want plus or minus the same values. Hit OK. See, now you can see that you've got standard deviation bars in this case that are truly the same size as you'd expect. Okay, so then there's a lot of other cleanup I want to do here. This doesn't even have a line. The default in Excel is to put in gray lines. These are gray lines. The text itself is a gray. It's not a black. If you want to publish this stuff, you've got to have very distinct colorations. I'm going to right click on this, format the plot area, come over here, give it a solid line that is definitely black. Okay, so, but that only did the top. I need to do the same here for the axes. Sorry, I'm trying to click on it. There we go. And this is still open. So you can see it's a light gray, the line. I want solid. Do the same thing for the Y, solid, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, it's starting to look better. I want tick marks over here. Again, see, all this is under this box here. This gives you kind of colors and that sort of thing. This box gives you these minimum maximums. So I want tick marks. I want major tick marks on the outside. Okay, now again, things are looking a little better. I want chart titles. Axes titles. You have to come back in here and add them in. And then you can click on this and start typing trial number, etc. Excuse me. So this is a lot of work. I encourage you to create your own templates. So the way to do that is with to create a generic looking graph. Try not to constrain it too much, especially in terms of let me see back over here, properties, no, size, that sort of thing. Don't put into any more options that you have to. And then you can come in here and right click and see this change chart type. Now you could change it to something that they have predefined here. Just while I'm on the topic, a line chart is the same thing as a bar chart, except it's hitting the tops of the bars as the lines. Never use a line chart when you want to do an XY relationship. Okay. If this number is 10 here, I would expect the this to change as well. Let me see here. I would have to do this, select data, add the horizontal axes labels, and I'm going to use these. And hit OK. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. You see with a line graph, it doesn't stretch out to 10 over here, right? It's just a 10 is just a number. So that's a little warning there. Okay, so I got off track. Back to change chart type. So what I have is a bunch of templates in here, mostly associated with XY graphs, but I have one here that has no box around, but everything's already black. Everything's all set the way I like it. And then I can choose one of these and plunk it in instead of click, click, click over here in the formatting area. Okay. So this is an XY graph now. It truly is spaced the way I want it to. So again, my other chart type, I'm going to go up to my templates. And now I'm going to have a box all the way around it. See, it's that fast now, and it looks great. If I wanted to change that a little bit to the marker, a marker is both a fill, the fill of the marker and the line around it. So I like circles. I mean, why not, right? So I need the fill of the circle is a light blue, but I'm going to go with Hawkeye colors, which is about that one. And the border is a solid line that's black. Okay, so now you can see I've got things that are a little more out there. Go back to, I'm sorry, right? Let me go back to the data. Sorry. Format the data series. Go back to the marker options. The size, I want it really big. So again, just to give you some examples, and I can, if you have any questions about developing your own templates, I can help you with that, but I wanted to make sure you understood that that is a possibility. And again, it's one of those ways of just saving you a massive amount of time. If you know that every chart you make is going to be looking pretty much the same. And when you get to publishing your thesis, your journal article, you want these things to look good. You can pull up journal articles and you can tell the authors just did not put the time in. Their graphs look ridiculous, or they have some sort of a fill in them, right, or something. Now this might be great in a PowerPoint presentation or in a poster. So that's another thing to consider, though, is that the fill here might, for whatever reason, you might want to jazz it up a bit or a lot for a poster, for example. So just some ideas there. Okay, let's get into 1041. So let's get into some of these statistical techniques. Regression. Okay, I've got temperature versus viscosity. I'm going to insert a plot. I want a regression, linear regression. I'm going to right click on it and add a trend line. And voila, it's that quick. You get the options over here. You can format that trend line just like anything else. Okay, it's automatically on linear. It also doesn't default to give you the equation or the R-squared value. So you have to plunk those in down here. And now you have access to them. You can format these, but as soon as you do, you have locked those numbers into place. So be careful of that. You can put the legend someplace, all that sort of thing. So that's easy enough. You can see some curvature in this data. I might want to go back and go, I don't know, maybe a quadratic would be better. I'm going to format the trend line. I'm going to choose a polynomial of order 2, and yeah, boy, it looks a lot better. See, so now you can look at the R-squared, number goes up, got a better fit, obviously. Let me go back to linear. Okay. Now I want to know, is that slope statistically different than 0? If you have done any statistics, you understand what I'm saying. I need to go to data analysis, and use the function here of regression. Hit OK. It asks you for the y first. Let's be careful of that. There's y. And x range, if you have multiple x's, you can highlight all of them. Okay, now again, I'm going to have a confidence level of 95%, output range. I'm going to put it over here, hit OK. Now you get all sorts of statistics here on this. You've got the different types of R values. Here's the 0.96 you see in the graph. Gives you the ANOVA table, which is not really necessary in this case, but if you're interested, here's the slope value right here, which mimics the one in there, but now I've got it out to 16 values, right? So that's a nice thing there, that you can utilize that number for all it's worth. It also gives you the p-value on it, which is less than 0.05. Therefore, it is statistically different from 0, which means there is some sort of relationship. And it also gives you upper and lower confidence intervals. So there's a lot going on here. If I took that one more step, there's a lot of other buttons you can push here. Let's just push them all. Hit OK. And it's going to overwrite that, and it's going to give you some residual outputs. It's going to give you some graphs, normal probability plots, etc. And if you took my course back in the day, I would have explained all this, but just to let you know it exists. Okay, so that's regression. Let's do a nonlinear regression, just kind of thing. So here is, again, I'm going to insert points. I recommend you insert points as points, not as connected lines. They're not connected. These are independent values. Don't connect them. Now I see kind of an exponential decay here, so I don't expect a linear regression. But when I add a trend line, yep, linear is really lousy. I'm going to go to exponential instead, and hey, that looks a whole lot better. Put the equation in there, and you've got a better, a function that's maybe perhaps exponential. Now, this is a case where exponential functions plot as a straight line on what's called semi-log paper. So I want to format the axes here to make it a log scale, is the point. So now I have log of y versus x. And you can see, yes, they are lined up linearly now. That might be something you want to do. Again, gray everywhere, it's a pain, get rid of the grid line. But you also notice, see what it did to the x-axis. So I got to go back to format the axes. And right over here, horizontal axis crosses, automatic? No, I want it to go to 0.01. And that drops it down. Okay, and then especially with log axes, I want tick marks. I want both major and minor. I want them outside. See, if you put those tick marks in, it makes it obvious to the viewer that that is a log scale, especially when you blacken them up like that. See, now I've got a nice looking log scale. Okay, moving onward. Histogram. You want to show the distribution of the grades of the course you're teaching. Now you can come up with an average and all that kind of fun stuff. I want to show the distribution. Now I put in min and max here because that tells me, oh, the minimum is 43 and max is 95. You have to declare the bin sizes, as they're called. Now I'm going to start at 40 and go to 100 by every 5. So I put those in manually. You have to do the same thing. Okay, so that's the setup. Go into data analysis. Now I want a histogram, hit OK. Input range. And the input is these values. The bin range, as you see there, are these. And then it's going to ask for an output range. And I usually put it right up here next to the bin. You'll see why. Hit OK. See, it repeats the bins and gives you the frequency for those bins. Now I can go insert a, oops, I want a bar chart. And I want to change the X, the horizontal, to these values here. Hit OK. And you can see that I now have a distribution of the grades like that. You can get real fancy with this. Let me go to here. Yeah, look at that. I put the normal distribution function in here as well, just to kind of really jazz it up. Say, well, where does that come? Well, yes, there is a function that will define every point on a normal distribution. I did it right here. So for 40, it's this function called the norm.dist. Okay. And again, it was just something you'd have to know, but just to let you know that it does exist. There's a bunch of them. Norm.dist, it's asking you for X first, okay, 40. Put a comma in, it's asking you for the mean. I've got that over here, and I've got to put $ signs on it. Then I put in the standard deviation, F4 again. And then cumulative, they'll give you the cumulative curve. If you put a 1 in, it's true, or in this case, I want the probability curve, so I'm going to put a 0 in. Mark. And so you can see that's how those numbers were generated. And then you can just plot them. Again, trying to do something really fancy. Okay, let's do a t-test. Site 1 versus site 2. You don't have to highlight them first. Just go to data again, data analysis. We want a t-test down at the bottom. Typically choose for unequal variances. It's the hardest to negate the null. Okay, hit OK. Variable 1. I guess actually I can put in the label as well. Variable 2. And mean difference is 0. Yes, I do have labels. Again, put the output someplace, hit OK. And that's all it takes to get a t-test out of Excel. So I'm going to then, you have to know what it is you're looking for in any output of any statistical package. In this case, it's actually, I know it's a two-tailed test. I'm just caring about, are they different? Not is one greater than the other. So here's the two-tailed p-value of 0.145. That is not less than 0.05. Therefore, do not reject. These two means are not significantly different at the 95% confidence level by this p-value here. Again, you'd have to be taught all that to understand what I just said. Okay, what if you have comparisons of more than 2? You're going to do a one-way ANOVA. Okay, same thing. Let's go to data analysis. ANOVA single factor, hit OK. Input range, again, I can put the labels in as well. Everything's got to be lined up like that, contiguous columns. Labels in the first row. Yeah, hit OK. And bingo, there's a one-way ANOVA. Now we know, oops, sorry. Here's the p-value from this ANOVA table that is less than 0.05. Therefore, yes, at least one of the means of one of the labs is different from one of the means of the other labs, right? That's the interpretation. And it shows you these averages here. Does not do a Tukey's test or any multivariable comparisons like that, unfortunately. So this is as far as you can go with it in Excel. I just know that one of the means is different from one of the other means. Okay, you can do an ANOVA with blocking as well. In this case, I have a one-way ANOVA, but I'm going to block by sample type. So again, you're going to go to data analysis. This is ANOVA without replication. It's the same thing as blocking. Input range, let's try everything here and see what happens. I believe so. Put in labels. You can see that it's just clicking your way through in terms of getting a result super fast. So now I'm looking at the p-value. I care about copper concentrations. That's the column values in this case. And yes, they are significantly different from each other. And I know I'm ripping through this, but I'm just letting you know, okay, let's go to the two-way ANOVA. So I've got a factor of group and a factor of trial type. whatever. And I've replicated it 4 times within each what's called a treatment combination here. So in order to do this one, now we go to ANOVA 2-factor with replication, hit OK. Input range is, I think I've got, let's see if I can pull off everything here and see what happens. Rows per sample, it's 4. There are 4 reps per sample. And hit OK. Yep, it's kind of happy. So now it's giving you the summaries by group and the summary, and then for each trial. And then we have the p-values on the group levels and the trial levels and the interaction as well to get a complete 2-way ANOVA out of it. Lastly, I just wanted to show you, I have some files here. Let's see, let me go back. Yes, this is where I dump everything. Sorry, I should have had this open. Here we go. What happens if you have some data in a text format that you have, that a instrument has generated for you? If you pull these into Excel just as they are, Excel wouldn't know what to do with them. Those numbers are not numbers. All of these numbers would be in the same cell, believe it or not, if it's just pure text like this, okay? So you have to import them in a way that Excel goes, oh no, I need to put the 7.91 into one cell and the 0 into another cell. Now it does it mostly pretty darn automatically nowadays, so it's not that difficult, but you have to go to, File, Open, Browse. I'm pretty sure I'm locked. Yeah, so now I'm cheating. I've already done this today, but normally it would look like this. You'd open it up and it's looking for Excel files and you go, well, where's my darn text file? You've got to come down here and go to all files to make it show up. See, there it is. Now, then it does this, which is to give you this text import wizard. It's trying to figure out where do you want the splits to occur is what it's asking you. So you say, yes, they are delimited, meaning they're spaced somehow. And I know that they're spaced by spaces. So I click this space button here. Let's just get rid of all of them. See, it's still text. If I hit comma, no, that doesn't work. I hit space. And I guess actually there's tab delimited. Yep. So that causes them to be split the way I want. And bingo, they come in as values in the columns like that. So just to let you know, that's the way to make it happen. If you have data, let's say I put in an apostrophe, 1 space, 2 space, 3 space, 4 space. And that's the, see, there they are. That's obviously not numbers you can deal with. You would go to data, text to columns. And again, it's looking for how am I supposed to split these up? And again, space works, and hit finish. Now there's a special type of separated values that they're called comma separated values. And you can export a lot of machine data out as a .csv file, comma separated file. So when I double click on this, Excel knows automatically that the commas, we can't see them now, will be the delimiters and pull it in. So when I see a .csv, then I come in and save it as a .xls file, for example, to change it up and turn it back into a true spreadsheet. So 10:57, rambled on here for quite a while. I hope that was helpful. Any burning questions?
Dr. O'Shaughnessy?
Yep.
Could you post this recording on the Heartland YouTube?
Yep, I'll definitely try to make that happen. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I also have a couple of lectures that I have, actually quite a few of my lectures that I gave in my course. I have turned them into narrated PowerPoints, and so I'll see if I can try to get those posted as well. One one of them is on this issue of data analysis or graphing and that sort of thing. So, any others? Okay, well, then have a good rest of your day and a great weekend. And thanks for joining in.